Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, July 30th. This is your host, Spin Doc, and we are live on the Daily Bread Network on YouTube with another edition of Spin Zone. We are getting close to the trade deadline today, so a lot of things to think about with that, including what I'll talk about kind of tomorrow's schedule and how today's schedule could feed into that. I'll explain it all in just a little bit. But first things first is you will notice that even though it's a baseball show, I'm rocking my team today, and that is because training camp is underway. Training camp is underway. We are going to talk about baseball today for sure, but this is a nice segue into what I talked about yesterday, is that starting next week, you will still see the regular baseball content on here, but also going to add some regular segments about guys that I think have done either a good or a poor job in training camp, guys who are rising, guys who are falling, to help you out with any potential early season props, maybe, or for sure for your fantasy draft. So got a whole bunch of content coming like that. So like I said, that's why even though it's a baseball show, you can obviously see the logo behind me. You can see my flag behind me, and I'm rocking my Bucks because training camp is fully underway and the NFL is almost upon us. So, but first things first, this show is being brought to you on behalf of the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. Please do give me a follow at Spin Doc Sports if you like what you hear. Like the video. Give us a like, give us a follow. We appreciate all the love. The other thing is if you follow Sharpie, which if you follow me, you need to, otherwise we can't be best friends. You need to follow at Sharpie's Bets because he's got a contest going on right now in conjunction with following me, following him, and following Kevin Roth WX, the best weather meteorologist guy for Major League Baseball in all of the land. It's not even close. So and the contest is you can get a free month worth of picks from both Sharpie and myself and $50. So all you have to do is follow all three of us. You have to be following all three of us. So if you're not already, that's at Sharpie's Bets, at Kevin Roth WX, and at Spin Doc Sports, as you can see on the top of your screen. So, before we get into the business of the day, we will first talk about what did we learn yesterday? How did that go? It was night in VIP. I'll put it that way. They don't happen often. We've only had one losing day so last night was the second one in our last 15. So, but we played it light and only finished down about one unit. And there were a number of ones where the line said that the guy would smack, like Glasnow, who we talked about. He didn't. I'll talk about Luzardo in just a second. But there were a few other ones too where the line was set up quite well for the books, saying that a guy would do a certain thing, and it just didn't happen. So, I said this last night to the crew, is that most of the time when you're betting with the books, you're going to win because books have the money, the books have the billions, and the books usually win. Sometimes the public and the trendies win. And last night was one of those nights pretty much across the diamond. The first guy that I did want to talk about, which was a win in VIP for us, was Jesus Luzardo. I talked yesterday. I said under all the way. And I said the same thing that I told that I told VIP, was that even though the White Sox are bad, so they're a bad team, they're not good, they don't strike out. And Luzardo went 7 innings through 90 pitches, only got 4 strikeouts, so that one hit pretty easily. The White Sox are a sneaky team, especially against lefties, that you can pick on for unders. And every now and then, depending on the pitcher, you might get a value line because, as I said, the team itself is bad. But this is the lesson that I want to take away from this, is that bad teams don't always strike out. They're not always correlated. And good teams can strike out. An example of that would be the Mariners. They're a decent team. I wouldn't call them like fantastic, but they're a decent team, and they strike out all the time. So the two are not always correlated. Sometimes you get a bad team that strikes out a lot, like the Rockies, or the Angels aren't very, they're below average and they strike out a bunch. But the two are not always correlated. And so sometimes you can get value on a strikeout prop by taking a bad team. So just keep that in mind, because the White Sox are incredibly, incredibly difficult to strike out. A team that's not difficult to strike out is the New York Yankees. So Boyle, we talked about it yesterday about how it was over or nothing, and he went over, got his he got 6 strikeouts, only pitched 3 1/3 innings. And the New York Yankees are a team, especially. I wouldn't even say when X or Y guy is in the lineup. They're just a team you can pick on, because there's no high contact lineup that this team can put out there, because in every day in the lineup they have to have at least probably 2 of Judge when he's healthy, Chisholm, Stanton, and McMahon. I'm not sure that they can get a lineup that doesn't have those guys, and each one of those guys can strike out every single day, and a couple of them can strike out twice. So the New York Yankees are a team where they're pretty much entrenched on no under island for me. The other team that actually made it to no under island last night, so they're there for the time being, is the Atlanta Braves. Lugo's line, after hitting 5+ in 7 straight, should not have been at a 4.5, at a bettable 4.5 too. And so the way that his hits were modified too, especially the way his hits adjusted throughout the day, did tell me that the Braves were going to smack him around a little bit, which eventually they did. The only problem was it was right after he got his 5th strikeout. And so unfortunately, the Braves have too many guys that are undisciplined, have too many guys that miss in the zone. So the Braves, for me, are on no under island. For me, it's going to be over or nothing for them. They join the Yankees, they join the Rockies, and they join the Anaheim Angels as teams where I might not always be on the over, but I'm never, ever going to be on the under. And the only other one that I did want to talk about before we get on with the day here would be Tyler Glasnow. So that was just a straight up miss by everybody, including the books, because they had him up at a 7.5 at some of the sharper books, and he actually had more walks than strikeouts. So Glasnow struggled through 4 innings, 5 walks. It wasn't even really his. His velo that was the problem. It was his control, because a lot of his walks there were multiple pitches in all of those at bats where they were just straight up uncompetitive. So, and because his four-seam fastball velo was up by almost a 0.5 mile an hour, his spin was up on every pitch except for one. It's just that the control was just way out there. And that's not normally what you see for a guy that spends over 50% of his time in the zone. So I'm not going to chalk this up to anything other than this. It's just a bad start. And they're human beings, and sometimes they do that. So there's nothing in the deeper dive metrics to indicate that anything is fundamentally wrong with Tyler Glasnow. The line said that he would have a great start and keep ascending from when he torched Minnesota last time, and he just went out there and just laid an egg and had a bad start. Like I said, velo, break, spin, everything was either at what it had been at or it was up. And so nothing in the advanced metrics would indicate that Glasnow would have only struck out 4 guys or 3 or 4 guys and struck out 3 and walked 5. His breaking balls were quite honestly uncompetitive. And it made it really easy to take, and it put guys in hitters' counts. The Reds, for all their strikeout potential, do actually have patience on pitches outside of the zone. So it snowballed fast. And when you're taking a 6.5, 7.5 line, I've told you this before, not a whole lot can go wrong. So that'll be it for today. We will move on to the business of the day. And we have Roger in the house. Morning to you as well, my friend. Happy Logan Webb Day. All right. Yep, one for three with Glass now. Yep, Cover Kings in the house. Good morning to you as well. And yeah, I said this last night too, and this is not to like make any excuses or whatever, but like, I mean, the public certainly doesn't win every day. The books don't win every day. Is that the goal is to win more often than you lose, obviously. And when you're betting sharper lines and when you're betting with sharper books and when you're betting more with the books than with the public, you will do that. And so last night was one of them ones. Was one of them days where line said one thing, guy did another thing, and that's humans and that's baseball. So we're the only things that I am taking from that though is that on nights where there's some teams that for me, where I normally wouldn't take them in a prop, like for example, we played Lugo's under last night for a half unit in VIP. If it's a team like the Braves or a team like the Angels or it's just not worth it. Just pass. Just pass. It's the same thing that I say about stuff like Skubal's under or like Mizorowski's under. It's like, even though you could look at having like all this value and all this oh my God, like this could be the time. Just don't try to play that game, especially on days when there's so many pitchers. There's just so many more things that you can put your money on. So anyways, so Roger asks, how do you live in Minnesota and are a Bucks fan? Funny story about that. So the Bucks used to play in the old NFC Central, and I watched them play the Vikings twice a year when I was a kid. And this was back when they were horrendous, back in the late 80s and early 90s, back in the old creamsicle days, which we're bringing back this year, and just started watching them and just started liking them. Maybe it was the colors as a young kid. And when I really started following them was right before their ascension, when they were building the Super Bowl team. So like when we drafted Derek Brooks, when we drafted Warren Sapp, when we had like Trent Dilfer and Sean King as our quarterbacks. I mean, my fandom goes back to like the probably the late 80s is when I started watching, because I would watch football with my dad and with my parents on Sundays. No Sunday ticket then, it was just local TV, so it was the Vikings. And the Vikings played the Bucks twice a year because they were in the same division back before the NFC South was created in the early 2000s. So I've been following them ever since, and I've been a super fan ever since. I've been to Ray James Stadium. I've been to Bucks games like probably 5-6 times now. And but it all started when I watched him as a kid. Lauderdale Owens, welcome in. Yeah, Lodolo, my Lord. Just absolutely torched the Dodgers. And that's one of those things where like you go and you look back and you look at how many softer tossing lefties. The Lodolo isn't a pure soft tossing lefty because he can run up to 94, 95, but he's not a blazing fastball guy. And like guys that don't have a blazing fastball who are lefties against the Dodgers usually just beat the hell out of. Not last night, though. My goodness, Lodolo torched them. What a heck of an effort. Andrew, welcome in. Work's been crazy. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Whatever you can do. Appreciate the love. Appreciate any time you can spend. I totally understand it. So good morning, and thank you for joining. And yes, Glasnow pissed us all off last night. Man, just such a abnormal lack of control. So we'll watch him next start and just make sure that it was an aberration and not something to be overly concerned about. All right, we do have 3 pitchers to cover today. And as always, if there's anybody we don't cover that you do want to talk about or hear anything about, please do go ahead and put it in the chat. All right, we will start off today with Mr. Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta, the righty, striking guys out at a 26.1% clip, walking guys at an 8.4% clip. He gets the Chicago Cubs tonight, and he gets a Chicago Cubs team that he has a lot of success against. So I'll talk about that in just just a moment. We have a line that I actually was a little surprised at. I mean, maybe not so much because he's at home, but I expected a heavily juiced over 5.5. But we have a 6.5 at a very bettable price for the under for one of the highest contact teams in Major League Baseball. That's the first thing I'm looking at. So let's talk about Freddie Peralta. So Fast Freddie did, as I said, does have a very good strikeout history against this Cubs projected lineup. He has 34 strikeouts and 109 plate appearances for a 31.2% K percentage. So there's already a good history right there. Now, to this 6.5, now to 7+ strikeouts, he is 4-6 over his last 10. But when he's been set at a 6.5 in that same time period, he is 2-1. So we look at the Cubs lineup, and when we see it, we do see that we have 4 lefties and 5 righties. Now, the thing with Peralta, and has been the case since like the beginning of time, because he has a career zone rate of 46.6. It's actually even worse this year. It's 44.4, which is 4% under league average. And the other thing with Peralta is that when he does throw in the zone, he can make you miss. But what you really need is chase. And so you need guys to chase. And because when he gets you chasing, he gets you missing. And that also limits the amount of time that he can rack up his pitch count and walk himself or uncompetitively pitch himself out of games. Peralta does carry a 52.9% chase contact rate, which is almost 5% under league average. So when we go through this Cubs lineup, and we look at the overall amount of chase that does exist, if we're just going to go 3-3-3 here, is that we have Bush, Tucker, and Suzuki. I've talked about how Suzuki has been a strikeout machine lately. He's got 2+ strikeouts in I think 3 of his last 5 games. But even with that, so take that in consideration, because Suzuki doesn't chase. Tucker doesn't chase either. And Bush leading off doesn't chase either. So you have 3 guys that don't chase right off the bat. Now, none of them make contact when they do, but you do have 3 guys that chase right off the bat, that don't chase right off the bat. PCA does chase, and I'm sure can be a strikeout candidate. Carson Kelly and Dansby. Next up, Carson Kelly does not chase, and Dansby Swanson is just slightly below league average. So we have like no chasers in this lineup so far. Nico Horner's a high contact guy, so even if he does chase, I normally just count him for a half at most. And then you have Ballesteros and Shaw. And Ballesteros in limited action this year doesn't chase. Shaw chases right about league average. So my kind of like a light bulb here says, now wait a minute. We have basically the entire lineup who doesn't chase. Now, to be fair, none of them make contact when they do. Very few of them make contact when they do. Nico would be one of the exceptions. Tucker would be the other one. But so they don't make contact when they do, but nobody chases. So is Freddie going to be able to get them in the zone? Well, interestingly enough, his overall zone contact rate over his last few starts has been absolutely stellar. So he is doing a really good job of getting more misses in the zone. Last time when he faced the Marlins and just torched them, he allowed a 72% zone contact rate. Now, it's only one start, and the Marlins are nowhere near the contact team that the Cubs are. So but 72%, that's like down in like Tarek Skubal levels. And so then you go back to some of his starts before that, like, for example, the last home start that he had before that was against the Nationals, and you see a very familiar refrain. He had zone contact of 77%, which is under his season average of 79. So at home, Peralta has been allowing a very, very low amount of zone contact. So we go over to this Cubs lineup, and we do look at our zone contact, and we do see that we have about half the lineup that is league average or worse in zone contact. So I am going to trust for this one that if I'm going to play this one, because you have the under at such a bettable number, and you also have this as a very, very, very big game for both teams, obviously. The other thing that I see is that Peralta's hits have been at a 4.5 over his last 10 starts. It's now down, albeit juiced to the over, but it's now down to 3.5 on DraftKings. Two other books are hanging a 4.5, but you do have one that's down at 3.5. You also have his earned runs that have been hovering right around 2.5 for most of his last 10 starts, most of his starts, period. And albeit juiced to the over, you have a 1.5. And so those things all lead me to believe that this is going to be worth that this is going to be worth a shot on the over for Freddie Peralta. So I'm heavily looking here at a potential over 6.5. I'm probably not going to go more than a half unit on it. The other thing that I'm going to potentially look for is Freddie Peralta's outs. I have a slight lean on the outs at over 16.5 because all these things with the hits and with the earned runs do say that Peralta does have a very, very good start. So this is one where if I am going to play it, I'm going to defer that the billion-dollar companies that do this every single day, that have these million-dollar algorithms, know exactly what they're doing and exactly what they're talking about. So I'm going to defer to the line is saying that 7+ is where Peralta goes with this one, especially when you look and you see no chasers, almost no chasers in this lineup, which is almost always what he needs. I also combine that with the fact that his zone contact has been 3 to 5% better than it even is, which is 3% under league average at home in home starts, big game. Outs, hits are down, earned runs are down. It says a good start for Freddie. I'm going with it. So I'll do a half unit on Freddie Peralta on the over 6.5 at plus money. I would only do it at plus money. If it goes to a juice number once the lineup gets released, I mean, unless it's like minus 105 or minus 103, that's probably doable. But like you get minus 115, minus 120, there's probably not enough value for me on that one. All right. Speaking of a guy who has had, so I talked about Freddie Peralta having some success. Speaking of a guy who had some success, but has been kind of down and now gets bumped back up for really no inexplicable reason. Mackenzie Gore, the lefty striking guys out at 29.3% clip, walking guys at a 9% clip. That 29.3%, he was at over 35% a couple weeks before the All-Star break. So this has come way down. He gets the Astros today, which by the numbers, if you look at team metrics, actually are one or have been one of the better contact teams for the year. Now, that's not to say what they've been like the last few weeks. So he does get the Astros, and Mackenzie Gore gets himself a bump in his strikeout prop because he has not been at a 6.5 since July 2nd. And in that game, he had pitched a really good regular game, but totally sucked for strikeouts. So he's then been at a 5.5, a 4.5, and a 5.5. And his last two starts hasn't even come close. So he gets the Astros. So the question then is, can we go back to Mackenzie Gore? Well, in his one start where he only got 2 strikeouts, that was against the Padres, the spin on virtually all of his pitches was noticeably down. I talked about this on Sharpie's show last week. You look at his spin from last start against the Twins, and that spin was noticeably down. Some of them weren't down too much, but his curve and his cutter specifically were down by over 50 to 60 RPMs, which is starting to get into, that's starting to get significant. The only pitch where his spin was up was his changeup, which isn't a good thing because you don't want spin on a changeup. The changeup is the one pitch that you don't really want an exorbitant amount of spin. So his spin's down again. Now the question is he hitting a wall, Or is this something where you can trust Mackenzie Gore? So Mackenzie Gore, from a zone perspective, does spend his zone contact is actually pretty good, but what you really want to look for is the chase, because Gore does generate a 30.8% chase rate, and when you chase against this man, you whiff because his chase contact is 10% under league average. So we look at the Astros lineup for today, and which is projected to be all righties. So the Astros usually do this against lefties. They run an all righty lineup, which Gore hasn't had like a ton of problems striking them out. So you look at this lineup, and what I'm really looking for is I'm looking for chase, and we do find this in this Houston lineup. So we go 1 through 3, and we have Smith, Altuve, and Yanni Diaz who are projected. Smith chases above league average, doesn't make contact when he does. Altuve chases a ton. He does make contact. And Yanni Diaz chases a ton as well and makes contact only slightly above league average. So we have chasers galore in the top of this lineup. So you can start to see why he was bumped up. Next up is Walker, Caratini, and McCormick. Walker chases about league average. Caratini doesn't chase that much, and Chas McCormick chases a ton and makes only average contact when he does. So we got 4 chasers, 4.5 if you count the league average one right off the bat. Dubon, Matthews, and Short to bring up the rear. You have Dubon as a chaser. You have Short is right about league average, and you have Matthews is a chaser. So you have 6 or 7 chasers in this lineup right now. So it's very easy to see why Gore got bumped up, especially because aside from Altuve, very few of these guys have elite chase contact. Yanni Diaz would be one that's actually been pretty good, but everybody else is right about league average. And if you're going to chase with Gore, even though the spin on his pitches has been down, is that you look at his even against the Twins in his last start, you look at his chase contact, and while he has not gotten guys to chase as much, because he only got a chase rate of 20% against the Twins, when he does, he still gets guys to miss. And you have a willing team that is more than willing to chase in this lineup right for Houston. So if this is the lineup that we're going to get, there's more than enough chase here for me to say that I want, again, it's probably going to be a half unit, or I might want to pair 6+ with something else, and take Mackenzie Gore at an over here, because if he can't get this against a lineup with this many chasers, because you also got to remember the Twins don't have a ton of chasers. You got Buxton, you got Castro. Twins don't have a ton of chasers. The same thing with the Padres. You do have 2 disciplined teams. Houston has not been disciplined lately, and so I am looking to potentially back Gore here on the over at 6.5. Now, the one thing that I was a little bit concerned about was his innings, because he is at 117 2/3 innings right now. His career high was last year at 166 1/3. So if you factor his average innings per start, he's going to eclipse that total. Now, there's no indications that the Nationals are going to limit him. And just for anybody that's even concerned about this, they're certainly not trading him. He is their cornerstone for the future for their rotation. So he's not going anywhere. But I'm not as concerned with the innings yet. Now, if the innings prop all of a sudden changes dramatically after the lineup drops, maybe I'll take a look. Maybe I'll think about it. But right now, this is a clear look on the over or nothing. I think that there's way too many chasers in this lineup for Houston. And even though Gore his spin's been down, one of the main reasons why I think his strikeouts have been down is he's faced 2 teams in a row where he's had to get them in the zone. And I've talked about this on here and elsewhere before, is that Gore has a good fastball. He doesn't have a dominating or overpowering fastball. His fastball, 95.3 miles an hour, 21.2% whiff rate. It's just high. It's just okay. It's a pitch that's used to set up the curveball, the slider, and the changeup. It's not a pitch that he normally uses to get guys out. In fact, of his 5 pitches, it's got the lowest put away rate, which is the pitch he actually uses to get guys with. And so with Mackenzie Gore, if you have a team that doesn't chase, then he's got to get you with his fastball, which is where it's tough to do. So clearly on the over for me for Gore because of all the chasers in this lineup. Let's see. We got Cover King saying something's off with Gore. Books really think he's getting 7. Yeah, I like I said, I think it's a combination of he's had 2 teams that don't chase in his last 2 starts, and so he's had to throw his breaking balls more. The spin being down is a little concerning, especially 2 starts in a row. But he does have a team right now that chases a ton and has virtually everybody in the I think it's 6 out of 9 that are above in the projected, and 1 that is league average, and then 2 that are below. So you have a ton of guys who can chase. So he can use his fastball to set up guys to whiff to the other breaking pitches. And yes, I agree. The books do really think he's getting 7 because I expected the exact same thing, Cover Kings. I expected an over 5.5 at like -160, not an over 6.5 at bettable. And Andre in the house, thank you for joining, and thanks for the Glass Now info. You saved me. I almost nuked him. Good. That's what we're here for, and Andre brings up a good point because it's not always about winning bets. It's also about avoiding traps. And that's something that I obviously joke about and talk about, trendy bettors, a lot, but that's something that they just never see. And for the few times that it works, it doesn't work just as many, and you're paying juice on it, which means you're a losing player. And so part of being a winner in this business is not only to pick winners, but it's also to just avoid traps, or if you're going to play them, because I'll be honest, we did play Glass Now last night in VIP, but we played them for a half a unit, and we played them at plus money only. So we paid no juice, and we didn't put an exorbitant amount of units on it, and we limited our losses. And so, yeah, part of this is understanding where the traps are and not taking the other side, just avoiding them altogether. Because even if lines like that hit at, that people are all over because of hitting last 8 of 9 or, 15 of 16 when the temperature is 72 degrees, whatever it is that even if you're hitting at a 50% rate, 51% rate, you're losing because you're paying juice. And whenever you're not winning, even at -110 at 53% or more, your net is you're down. I also see it all the time. And again, I'm not going to name names because it's not important and I don't want to put their names on my show, but there are numerous cappers out here that will play these just ridiculously stupid, like last night, it'd be like Glass Now, like 4+, and you see it and it's like -275 or -300 or some stupid shit like that. And they do that for 4 or 5 plays and then go 3-2 and then tout their record. There's one in particular that does that a lot and will go, 3-2 on -140 or worse plays and then claim they had a winning day. And that is just straight up dishonest, or you're too stupid and you don't understand how odds and juice work. And I'm certain you're not betting your own plays, because if you did that, you would be broke very, very, very quickly. So mini rant just to say that, like, that's part of the system, and that's part of the system that I preach in VIP too. Is it's the old, if there's any former poker players and Rounders fans in here, get your money in when you have the best of it, protect it when you don't. And so we lost on Glass Now, but we lost a half a unit, and I saw And I saw across the spectrum yesterday, people nuking glass now, people taking like, glass now 5+ at like minus 270, and pairing it with something else, and it just nonsensical plays. But that's the other thing that you always got to watch for when you want to find a capper to follow, is not only what is their record, but what is their overall unit, what is their overall unit sizing. Because if you got people being like 30 units on this, 47 units on that, they're not betting real money, or their unit is like a penny. Because nobody can afford to do that. Not even like Drake, who, obviously bets like millions. But, 6,000 units on this, 4,000 units on that, those aren't even real numbers. They don't even mean anything. So just that's part of this show too. And this is why I'm sticking with Andre's comment. Part of this show too is to try to educate people about where to see the traps and how to protect your money, because every penny that you don't give to them in the trap spots is a penny of theirs or a penny of yours that you save. And those things add up over time. And it also allows you to bet more when you do have the advantage and can, go nuclear on one. So Andre also saying, since I started to watch your show, I've noticed the plus money props hit way more. They do. Plus money props actually hit in a lot of cases at roughly the same rate that the juiced ones do. And obviously, if you're paying juice and you're hitting at 51%, you're not winning. If you're hitting plus money at 51%, you're ahead. So Cover King saying 1 unit on Web, 6+ Ks at minus 150. No one can get that line anymore. And I think it's probably nuked. Cover King saying blame it on public education. I blame it on no education. It's one of two things to me. And, I've actually gotten blocked by people because I've asked this before, and I ask it in all seriousness. I'm like, are you like trying to scam people, or do you just not know any better about how lines and how odds and whatever work? And then, I get a FU and a block, whatever. But I'm like, it's a serious question, because there's a lot of people that are doing this that just don't understand. And there's a lot of people who you could ask in this betting world. You ask them, how do books make money? And their answer would be something akin to players lose. It's not how books make money. That's because if every player lost and the books won at like some 80-90% gaudy, stupid rate, then nobody would have any money and nobody would play. The whole goal is just like when you go to a casino, like on a slot machine, is that you win some hands, you lose some hands. Eventually the built-in house edge comes to out in the casino's favor, but it keeps you playing and it gives you the illusion that you can win. Books do the same thing. That's why trend bettors win at like, trend bettors 51, 52, 50, 51% of the time. The only problem is you're paying juice on all the losses, which are at the same rate. And so you just lose. You win every now and then, you lose a little bit over time. That's what's called gambler's fallacy. And it creates the notion that, well, I just got unlucky today and I'm going to beat them tomorrow. And then maybe you do win tomorrow and then you lose the next 2 days. Well, I'm going to beat them tomorrow, and so on and so forth. That's what keeps people playing. If the books just won every single bet, then nobody would have any money and nobody would have any money to play with. So that's not how books don't make money off players always losing. Books make money off of creating the illusion that players can beat them. And books really make money off of having equal action on both sides of a line, because losers pay the winners' bets and the book takes the juice. That's how books make money. So if anybody has any answer other than that, they're wrong. But Cover King saying the guys saying they're betting 30, 40 units aren't even betting the game. They're betting. Yeah. This is so true. I'm gonna leave this up for a second. This is so true what Cover King says. It's either you're not betting it, or you're betting like $1 and then you're using some kind of Photoshop or AI to make it look like you're betting, like Drake money on this. Again, if anybody plays all heavily juiced props, goes 3-2 or 4-3 or whatever it is, and says that they had a winning day or a positive day, then they either don't know what they're doing or they're a straight up liar, because it's not. And it either means they're being disingenuous and trying to scam, or they don't understand how odds work. Either way, that's not somebody to follow. And again, I'm talking about one or two in particular, but there's a million of them out there, and I'll never name names on this show because I don't want to give anybody free airtime. Andre saying, yes, is always people that look at the last 5 results. Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes. The hit rate charts. You see them all the time, man. You see it all the time. So if that's what people lead with and that's their only logic for it, then might not be the right person to follow. All right. We got another pitcher to talk about, so let's get on with our last pitcher of the day. Brian Woo! For you Ric Flair fans out there, the righty is striking guys out at 24.3% clip, walking guys at a 4.8% clip. He is the only pitcher in Major League Baseball, I believe, still to go 6+ innings in every single start this year. The man is a machine. The man is a zone machine. He gets the Athletics tonight, and we have a line that was not what I expected it to be either. I expected a 6.5 on this one. I'm not like super suspicious yet, but we do have a very, very bettable 5.5. Now with Brian Wu, he is 7-3 to this line in his last 10. That makes me more suspicious. He also has a 27.4% strikeout percentage and 73 plate appearances against this projected lineup. That makes me more suspicious. And so we also have an over 5.5 that opened at -150 and now has come down very, very quickly. And I can tell you that the public today, they ain't going to be on the under for this one. Not for the Athletics. The Athletics have been swinging horribly lately. In fact, over the last 2 weeks, the Athletics have the highest or second highest chase rate in Major League Baseball, the lowest zone contact rate in Major League Baseball, second lowest zone contact rate in Major League Baseball, and the third highest called strike plus whiff rate. Ugh. So they have a ton of strikeouts, a ton of guys in this lineup that can whiff. And we're getting Brian Wu at a bettable 5.5, which he's hit 7 of last 10 times. This is the one where like Glasnow yesterday, where, trying to tell you to like potentially avoid traps. I'm not sure that this one's not a trap because you look at this lineup, because with Brian Wu lives in the zone, 56% zone percentage. It's where he operates. It's one of the only things that I look for whenever I'm capping him. And I see this lineup right now of 4 lefties and 5 righties. And so with those guys looking at zone swing and zone contact. So we got Butler, Kurtz, Rooker, and we have Butler, who has average and below average. We have Kurtz, who has below average. We have Rooker, who is below average and way below average. Above average and below average. I'm sorry. We then look at Langoliers, Soderstrom, and Andujar. We have Langoliers, who is above on swing and decent on contact. Andujar has great zone contact, so that can be a potential dead spot. And we have Soderstrom, who is decent at it as well. And so all 3 of those guys could be potentially tough to strike out. Then it gets with Cortez, Urias, and Schoenemann. So in the projected, Cortez has seen limited pitches, but his zone contact is bad. We have Schoenemann, whose zone contact is under average. And we also have Urias, who does have solid zone contact, but takes a ton of pitches in the zone against a guy like Brian Wu, who has a strikeout rate of over almost 50% when he gets ahead of you. So there's easily 6 strikeouts in this lineup. Why is this so bettable, and why is it coming down when everybody and their brother is going to be on the over? I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get there. I'm not taking the under. I'm not taking the under on the Athletics. I'm just not doing that. So, but if I do go on it, it's over or nothing. But 27.4% strikeout percentage, which is pretty solid. You have a regular innings allotment slated for him by the line. You have a 7-3 to 6+ to the last 10. And you have a line that's coming down on a team that has 5 of 9 poor zone contact, and 2 of the 9 that don't take a ton of pitches in the zone. Man, Seems trappy to me. I'm not sure that it's an actual trap yet. It seems off, and when it seems off, it doesn't add up for me, and that's when I'll probably just exit myself from this one entirely. So yeah, that will do it for Brian Wu. We have some other looks, other sides, and stuff today. I saw Roger. I saw your comment from before. You said I never did find out why, but what was the deal with Severino? Are you talking about like how he pitched last night, or are you talking about like why he hates pitching in Sacramento so much? If you just clarify that in the comments, and I'll answer it. Roger asking, what are your thoughts on Chris Paddock with his new team? I'm not touching him. He's not a strikeout pitcher to begin with, and I like the guy, and the guy's worked his ass off to get back, to develop another pitch and get back to the majors and be a regular starter or whatever. But when I heard that we traded him, I'm like, what did we get? Like a hot dog and a bag of chips. So I mean, I wasn't happy we got anything for him. So I wouldn't even begin to prognosticate on his strikeouts, especially when he's with a brand new team, brand new catcher, brand new situation. Like I am in wait and see mode for most guys who get traded, at least through one start. Kid Keon, welcome in, and thank you for joining. Asking, what about Eovaldi and Webb? Eovaldi got the bump. Eovaldi got the Gore bump. He got bumped up, and he's bumped up on multiple books for really no inexplicable, for not much reason. So Eovaldi got bumped up. He is at a 6.5 for the first time in his last 10 starts. And yeah, he had 7 and 8 in his last 2, but then you go back and you look before that, and you see that he's 4 and 6 to hitting 6 to even hitting 6+ in his last 10. And now he's at a 7+, and he's got an 86 plate appearances against his Angels lineup and only 18 strikeouts, and you're going to bump him up? Say what? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And when it doesn't make sense, I got to look the other way. So I'm looking at an over for Eovaldi, and for Logan Webb, yeah, I saw Cover Kings posted that earlier, and I'm not super high on the 6.5. I mean, if you can get a 5.5 at a decent price, I like that more. I think that -150 is pretty fair, but the only place I'm seeing it now is BetMGM of the major books, and that's at -165. So it's probably going to be a pass for me. You can pair Logan Webb 6+ with something else, and maybe see if you can get some equity on it. That's what I would do. Roger clarifying, saying Severino, the way he fell twice in a row after his first pitch. No, I actually didn't see that. I'm not sure why that happened. That's interesting. Andre saying, I sadly fell for the Kikuchi trap. Hey, solidarity, brother. I did too. We only put 1 unit straight up on Kikuchi yesterday. So we minimized our losses. So we didn't pay the juice on that one yesterday on the 6+, but he was out there in that last inning, and he actually had 2 guys on 2 strikes, but you knew that he was on the shortest leash. Angels interim manager was literally standing at the steps of the dugout, just waiting to go take him out. They were trying to squeeze another inning out of him, and obviously they almost got there. But yeah, he had 3 or 4 of his last 5 or 6 hitters on 2 strikes. So he had through 100 pitches. He had Andre just said it in the chat. He had every chance in the world to cash. I mean, there wasn't a lot of ump ball yet there. There wasn't a lot of anything really. It was just, he had his chances and he didn't do it. So Cover King saying Gore for 6 and Webb for 4 is -135 on Fanatics, if you're interested in that one. And Roger saying any ladder play is looking promising. I don't know. With so many pitchers going today, like I told VIP this morning, like that pitching matchup in St. Louis might be one of the worst ones I've seen. You got Cal Quantrill against Miles Mikolas. Honestly, no. I don't see a ton of ladder potentials today. There's just not a lot of like really like good strikeout pitchers going, and even the ones that are going against the teams that would be. I mean, the only one that I could possibly think of would would be if we get the right line movement and the right lineup from the Angels. Evaldi could be, but even then, I'm not sure. Tomorrow, I'll talk about tomorrow in a second, but the weekend looks like it might have some spots. So Kid Keon asking about Will Warren. Lean on the over, but I don't want to pay -1 bazillion in juice. So he's had a mixed bag of results against the Rays. I I don't mind the line. I just hate the juice. And I'm not taking him at home to go under against that lineup, especially if a guy like Morella is going to be in and Caballero is going to be in. But like -165, -170, or something like that. Last time I looked, just not really a huge point of emphasis or interest for me. Cover King saying, I think that Ryan Nelson has a good shot to get 5+ plus money against the Tigers. I mean, they've been a strikeout candidate lately. If you're going to play it, that's the way that I would go. Indeed. All right. Other look sides, totals, things for the day. If you are looking at a money line, Blue Jays money line at +105 has value. I think that the Marlins money line at +125 also has value. Again, that pitching matchup is just disgustingly bad. I think that the Braves money line +110 has a little value, but I'm not sure that I would be like horribly interested in it. And the Nationals at even money also has value. Given the potential to chase that I mentioned and why I'm on Gore's over, I think that there's some value there being able to get the team itself at even money. For totals, for leans, it's kind of dry today. I think that the Astros team total under has some value. I also think that the Royals and Braves under 10, it might be down to 9.5 right now. It does have a little bit of value. And the Cardinals and Marlins under 8.5 has value as well. Those are my kind of leans for money lines and totals. And I think that will do it. All right. So let's talk about tomorrow. There's 3 baseball games tomorrow, so there's really no point in having a show. I could talk about every single pitcher, but also the Hall of Fame game is tomorrow, so there's NFL tomorrow. So I think that we're going to pass on tomorrow's show and then gear up for the Friday Super Show back with Sharpie, 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Also Friday, on Sharpie's show, we'll be talking about my most recent candidate for You'll Probably Thank Me Later, which would be another guy who I think would be overvalued in fantasy football. Now, this is going to lead us into next week, where in addition to the baseball stuff we talk about, also going to start including some little tidbits about stuff from training camps and from the preseason, where guys are rising, falling, potentially value for your fantasy football draft, and even potentially for a role for early season props. So that is all starting next week. So I will see everybody here Friday, because again, with 3 baseball games, it doesn't really make sense to do a baseball show. And so just wanted to give a shout out to Roger, to Cover Kings, to Lauderdale, to Andrew, to Andre, to Kid Keon, and I think I got them all. Thank you all so much for joining. Again, this show is brought to you on behalf of the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. Please do subscribe and smash the like button if you haven't already. If you like what you hear, follow me at Spin Doc Sports. Like the video, give it a share. We do appreciate the love. Best of luck in all your action today. Friday, back at you. Friday, early afternoon, Sharpie Super Show with Sharpie. We'll see you.